I know this has been a passion project for you for many, many years. Can you just tell us a little bit about how you discovered this man's story and why you knew you wanted to bring it to the screen?
Yes, I first came across Robert Kanigle's biography about 10 years ago, and I fell in love with the personal story that was told between Hardy and Ramanujan. I found the story of genius really fascinating as well, but it was really the personal story that drew me in.
Stephen, maybe you can talk a bit. You're a Cambridge man yourself. You must have heard of him during your days there. And then I read a news article from 2006 saying you were working on a project similarly. And how did you come to be involved in this one instead?
Well, I read a mathematician's apology by Hardy when I was at university, and I thought it was one of the most inspiring books I'd ever read. And it was a very simple book on the surface, laying out how to find mathematics beautiful without using any formulas and numbers on the pages. But it also then has a sort of afterword of describing this extraordinary love affair. I think it's the only way to describe it, an intellectual, spiritual love affair between two people of such different caste. And I love the idea that it's a story about an English academic and a brilliant Indian genius, and yet it's not about, despite its time.
Your theorem is wrong. And this is why we cannot publish any more until you finally trust me on this business of proofs. Intuition can only carry you so far.
Stop! I can't hear this anymore. Intuition? You say this word as if it is nothing.
Jeremy didn't come as a surprise. I was terrified, actually, at the prospect of meeting him. We sat down in a read-through together, which was single-handedly one of the scariest moments of my life, walking into a room, and he was incredibly gracious. I hung on to his coattails for most of the film. Yeah, it was just an incredible learning experience for me, you know, through and through. So, yeah. It was
Not much you need to learn.
Very kind, but yeah.
Liam, you're here with the dressmaker. What made you want to take on this film, this role?
I think one of the big things was Kate Winslet was attached to the project at the time, and really fell in love with the script. I thought it was a really interesting character, and the character really reminded me of someone like my grandpa or my own father, and I just felt like I really related to this character, and it seemed like a fun, charismatic kind of role to play and do something different to what I've been doing for the last few years, which is sort of more serious roles. Yeah, when you're on set and you do a shirtless scene like I did, you're the only person on set that is shirtless or pantless for this example, and it's really awkward. It's uncomfortable. You have Kate Winslet and Judy laughing hysterically at the whole situation, and then you have a bunch of crew members of serious men doing their work, and I'm standing there in my underwear, and it's pretty uncomfortable, but you kind of just have to laugh at it, I guess.
They'll never forgive me for that boy's death.
You're wasted here.
I thought what was an interesting aspect of the movie was about outsiders and how do you fit in this society, whether it's big or large, that you're a part of. And I was just wondering, for you, how does that resonate? I mean, have you ever felt like the outsider, and how do you just fit in?
It sounds like a weird thing to say. I feel like a lot of my life I've felt like an outsider. I always feel like I'm on a different page to most of the people around me. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but I don't know. I'm pretty outspoken about my opinion, but I think often in high school I felt like an outsider in a lot of ways, and I don't know. I don't know how to explain that, but I don't know. Look, I'm someone who preaches individuality, and be yourself and not conform to what society says. Make your own decisions based on what you think's right. Don't make decisions based on fear. I've said it a lot, but that's what I truly believe.
You gave an interview to a colleague of mine at The New Yorker where you talked about how this show grew out of watching the Arab Spring, in particular the way in which young people and young activists use social media and technology to ostensibly change their government and win some freedoms that they didn't have. Can you elaborate on that a little bit and how the germ of this show kind of leads back to then and how it grew into what it is?
Yeah, I mean, I think specifically because I was thinking about the character of Elliot, and I always had pictured him as a guy with a lot of anger, a lot of angst, a lot of that kind of angst from youth that you have against authority, and but I was wondering how to, I guess, characterize that or humanize that in a way that wasn't going to feel overbearing or too negative. And because I actually don't think anger necessarily has to be a negative emotion. And in the case of my cousins, because I'm Egyptian, and that's part of the reason why I went to Egypt right after the Arab Spring, a lot of my cousins were angry at the government, but they channeled that for this really positive change. And there was just something I found profoundly beautiful about that. And that's sort of when it clicked for me that I have to make that part of Elliot's makeup.
Were you bringing any of yourself or any experiences that you could channel to that? Or was this a completely foreign thing to kind of jump into?
Should have hung around with me last night. You I think there's aspects of that in every single one of us. Whether we approach it or not, I think there are those places where we can reach the extremes of where our minds go when our back's against the wall, when we're lonely, when we've dealt with grief. It all depends on how you handle it.
Darf ich mit Ihnen beginnen, Martin Suter? Sie sind, ich sage das hier, weil wir hier auch internationale Presse haben, der mit Abstand erfolgreichste Schweizer Autor. Denken Sie ans Kino, wenn Sie schreiben? Denken Sie daran, dass Sie Filme schreiben, dass Sie auf eine Art und Weise schreiben, die es vielleicht dem potenziellen Regisseur leichter macht, daraus einen Film zu machen?
Nein, ich bin nicht so berechnend. Ich schreibe halt meine Geschichten und konstruiere meine Geschichten in Szenen und deswegen schauen die aus, als wären sie schon fast fertige Drehbücher manchmal. Aber viele Produzenten, Regisseure und Drehbuchautoren haben gemerkt, dass es dann doch nicht so einfach ist, weil sehr viel im Kopf passiert, sehr viele Rückblenden sind. Nein, ich denke nicht an den Film, wenn ich einen Roman schreibe.
Mein Name ist Patricia Krapp von Negatified und ich möchte den Herrn Suter gern fragen, wie es sich anfühlt als Autor, seine Figuren, die man ja so im Kopf fertiggestellt hat, in diesem Buch auf der Leinwand zu sehen.
Ja, das ist sehr verschieden. Manchmal adoptiert man diese Figuren nicht und in diesem Fall hatte ich überhaupt keine Mühe, sehr schnell. Ich habe den Film in einer Vorvisionierung gesehen, noch nicht im ganz fertigen Zustand, aber die Figuren, natürlich sehen die anders aus und sind anders als die Figuren, die ich im Kopf hatte, aber ich habe mich sehr schnell mit ihnen angefreundet. Das ist seltsam, ja. Ich weiß nicht, ich müsste das Buch wieder einmal lesen und schauen, ob vielleicht die Figuren jetzt die Gestalt der Anwesenden annehmen.